Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, hi, how are you? If you're coming back, thank you so much for coming back. Today I'm going to be ranking my favorite OG gay YouTubers. This is gonna be super nostalgic for me. These are the first people that I saw online in the YouTube space, being out, being queer, and having queer joy. A lot of them started making content back in like 09, 2010, 2011, those years, so like older queer people. That really gave me hope and made me realize that queer people existed and I wasn't the only one out there. But before we get into that, I just want to remind you to like, subscribe, and turn on notification bell so you are notified every single time I post new content. I'm trying to get to 50,000 subscribers and build this wonderfully queer community, so definitely think about doing that, and let's get into the video. So we're gonna start off this list with like my beautiful man, my boy, Dan Howell. I love this man. I started watching him, I want to say in 2012, 2013. He only recently came out as gay. I still count him because he was always gay, always queer. He had my heart. I absolutely love this man. I'm so gay for him. I'm not gonna let, like, bruh, if this man ever went for like a non-binary being, I'm first in line, y'all. Like, I love him so much. I'm going with I am so gay for you. So how could I talk about Dan without talking about Phil? I know that a lot of people kind of treated Phil as like a sidekick to Dan. I personally liked him more. Like, personality wise, Phil resonates with me a whole lot more. His quirkiness, just how he is in general. Like, I just adore Phil. I never watched him as much as I watched Dan. I loved their Sims series a lot. I would watch videos with them together, but like, I didn't really get into watching Phil by himself until like a couple years after. It was always like Dan and Phil for me. But I absolutely love Phil. He's so sweet. I'm gonna say you were pretty cool. I know that sounds bad. He wasn't my gay awakening, so I'm not gonna put him there, but he was so cool. I absolutely loved him. That's where I'm gonna be putting him. Next up is Tyler Oakley. I hadn't thought about him in a while. Honestly, the reason he's on this list is because, first of all, I did watch him when I was younger. He was one of the most flamboyantly gay people on YouTube that I remember watching. The reason he's on this list is because he recently did an Anthony Padilla I Spent a Day With, and just seeing him again and like, oh my god, like, Tyler Oakley. I watched him fairly consistently for like a year or so. Then like, I don't know what it was. He seemed, there's just something about him that I just started to not really vibe with a little bit. So I'm gonna go with I Haven't Thought About You in a Minute, because I really haven't thought about him in a minute. It was literally because of the Anthony Padilla interview he's on this list. But watching him and seeing him in that interview is so interesting. Y'all should go check it out if you haven't seen it. He talks about like how performative he was while doing YouTube and how he's really happy now that he's gone further away from it and is more authentically himself, and it's really interesting. Next up is going to be my non-binary, I can't even describe them. Ash Hardell. They're my gay awakening. They were the very first non-binary person I ever saw taking action toward their transition the way I want to take action towards my transition. They were the first non-binary person that I saw that wasn't on hormones and was still getting top surgery, and they absolutely inspire me with everything that they do. Even just their videos and aesthetic, I like aspire to be like that. They just have such a wonderful way of shooting and discussing queer topics and nuances, and I love the fact that they brought on people of differing experiences than them and giving them a platform as well. Ash was just always such a sweet presence on the internet and in the queer community on YouTube. I always adored them. They've always been super just adorable. I don't think anyone's ever really had a bad thing to say about them, even though I know there are plenty of people who have like had a lot of bad things to say about them. Other than being a trans non-binary person, there's nothing really that they've ever done to like, they're not a bad person. I absolutely love them. My icon. I love inspiration. They're going into You Are My Gay Awake. So another person that came out later, and by later I mean 2014, because I just looked it up. For some reason I'm like, yeah, people coming out in 2014 was like late coming out. Oh my god, that was like almost 10 years. Okay, never mind. I'm not gonna do this. I think it was his coming out video that started making me watch Connor Franta. I think I only watched about 6 months after his coming out video, and I watched some of like his older content during that time too. He always seemed really sweet, really kind too. About a year or two ago, I kind of looked him up and was like, oh, what are you up to now? He's still making videos. I didn't know. A lot of like these OG YouTubers still make content, just, you know, not as big as it was, which is perfectly fine. YouTube is now doing what it's doing. You always have to cycle through people, unfortunately, on the internet, but he always seemed really sweet, really kind. He did like a running video. That's how I found him, actually, a little while ago, because he did like a running video and I was starting to get into running. I'm gonna put him next to Tyler because I haven't thought about him in a minute, but he definitely was one of those people that was like, yeah, he was there, he was queer, it was nice. So Gigi Gorgeous. Can't believe I ever watched her, I'm not gonna lie. I know that sounds like rude. Her content wasn't like the normal kind of content that I was watching at that time. She was the very first trans woman that I was ever exposed to on the internet, and watching her transition was really interesting for me because at that time I definitely was very transphobic and kind of like was hate watching a little bit, but also was very intrigued and was like, huh, what's going on here? Like, looking back on it, I definitely watched her more than I thought I did, which is really interesting. Like, again, she wasn't really the content, but I think because she was like the first trans woman that I was ever really exposed to, was just intrigued and was like, oh, what is this? So I'm also gonna put her in I Haven't Thought About You in a Minute. So Gigi was the first trans woman I was exposed to. Jamie Dodger was the first trans man I was ever exposed to. I love this man. I literally adore him so much. He's been on the internet for like, I want to say like 1,000 years. Like, I feel like he's always just like been on YouTube and talking about his transition and letting people know about trans man. He definitely, like, for a very long time was like the trans guy on YouTube, or at least I felt like he was. It wasn't until like other younger people showed up in like 2015 and 16 that I feel like he didn't get as big of an audience, but he's oh god, I love his earlier videos explaining his transition. Now he does a lot of like meme content. I watch him occasionally. He's just so wholesome, so sweet, so kind, literally deserves everything in the world. So I'm gonna put him on You're Pretty Cool. So I'm not gonna lie, Chandler Wilson I think was very instrumental for me, along with Hardell, especially because they were younger. I'm not sure what their pronouns are, but I remember when I was watching them, they were going by they them pronouns and were identifying as agender. So if that has updated, someone let me know in the comments, because I'm not sure. I haven't followed up with them in a very long time, but I definitely, watching them in their perspective, especially as a younger person, watching them and seeing them first from Ash's video and then going to go follow them, it was really nice, and it was nice to kind of identify with someone who was around my age at the time. I think they're a little bit younger than me, but it was still really cool to see someone. They also identified as asexual as well. Again, I don't know if that's still the case, but it was really cool to see someone like them on the internet, especially at that time. A lot of people weren't talking about being non-binary and being asexual, so I was like, oh my god, there is another person like me. At the time, I only identified as asexual, so I watched them for that. Didn't really think of non-binary as being an option for me at the time, but it was still good to be able to see that in a younger person who is more around my age. So I'm definitely gonna put them next to Ash in my gay awakening, because they really did help me and were one of the few, if not the only, like, asexual content creator that like I watched at that time in the early 2010s. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments down below who your OG gay YouTubers are, who you watched, who helped you figure out your identity, especially people around my age from like 23 to like 26, 27, when YouTube was really prevalent and all of these people were coming out. It was such a big deal, and it was so important, I think, for the queer community to be able to see people like them. And now seeing so many people online in YouTube spaces, TikTok, Instagram, being out and open is absolutely amazing, and I adore it, and I'm so happy to be one of those people representing the asexual and non-binary and bi communities. It is such a privilege to be able to do that, and being able to help people and educate people about all of those communities. If you want to see more content like this, be sure to also let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.